Good afternoon, everybody. Okay. So we had CPI this morning. And we have about 7 minutes until our 2 p.m. silver bullet window. In terms of this morning's price action, I did not trade, but it looked like this was the silver bullet that happened in our AM session. A little bummed that I missed this one because it was one of those silver bullets that's just blatantly obvious, hard to miss. You have the consolidation for the opening range, and then just the drop at 2. This is why I like to, I'll trade in the first 30 minutes sometimes if it's like a really, really perfect setup, but I mostly like to wait until 10 a.m. Because, so say we're waiting until 10, this is a lot of chop. You could have there's really no clear direction here. And you had the down, you had the up, and you had this drop. So dropping after this consolidation, on the higher time frames, this green area is a 4-hour fair value gap. So you're kind of chopping up, touching the top of it, came up into it one more time, came back down. And if you know the rules for our silver bullet, you had, on the 1 minute at least, you had no chance of an entry until right here. This was awesome because it was below the new week opening gap. So you came back up. You had 2 chances to hit it. We didn't even get a body close in it. And then you dropped down for a decent chunk too. On the NASDAQ, you could have got almost 40 handles out of that. We would have taken, we always go for the first take profit at 10 handles for the low hanging fruit. So you would have got that pretty quickly, and then you could have let a runner go. That would have been a nice one. But here we are in the afternoon session. So let's look at the daily. ICT this morning tweeted out, he put our attention to this daily fair value gap and was saying how if yesterday on the 12th we closed below it, he would look to see this as an inversion fair value gap. So as you can see, we don't have much time left in the day, but we came up above it, and now this daily candle is trying to determine, are we going to close inside of it? Are we going to treat it as an inversion? I like how during lunch, I wouldn't say we consolidated kind of during lunch. This is the start of lunch right here. It came down, up, down. We didn't move a whole lot during lunch. And if in the PM session, it is valid to use the lunchtime liquidity as runs on liquidity. So meaning that we can take the lunch buy side and then kind of go above that to get longs, people that are looking for breakouts. So, this is an up close day, but we have breakout people are going to try and go long off these breakouts. So that would get them in the market, and then we could turn around and target the lunch sell side, which would be these down here. That is the lowest of lunch sell side. I think that's pre-lunch. I like how this liquidity, this is lining up inside this daily fair value gap, which is the orange. So the bias for this PM silver bullet, I'm going to see, are we actually going to use this daily fair value gap as an inversion? In the top left, let's drop down to the 15-minute. So the 15-minute had a close above it. On the 1 hour, we're kind of wicking. I highlighted with this red dotted line the consequent encroachment of this long wick on the 4 hour. So I like that we're getting below that. Similar on the 1 hour. Okay, so to the 15-minute. So if we, going into 2, if we start to get really heavy to the downside, I think that's a very good indication that we will be going lower. Let's check out what the dollar looks like. So the dollar was making lower highs and lower lows. That coincides with the lunch small range up. Dollar was taking a lot of sell side, so we'll see if it wants to. If we do get heavy, we'll watch the dollar to make sure it's acting in tandem with the indice price action. I'm going to check ES real quick. ES, I think I'm going to focus more on NASDAQ just because looking at this lunch price action in ES on the 1 minute, it's too staticky. It's like it looks very barcodey, not in the sense that it's like we're moving sideways, but in the sense that there's a lot of gaps. You can see like the gap ups, the opens and the closes just aren't super aligned. So I don't really like that in price action. It makes it a lot harder to read. So as versus NQ, you can see, where the candle bodies open align with where the previous candle closed. So it's just a little more fluid price action. Again, this yellow line is the dollar. So we're waiting to see, does our daily candle actually want to treat this as a inversion fair value gap? Now the thing is too, we could like close on the consequent encroachment. So we could still, come up here, spend some time above this, and then drop maybe 3 to 4 and end in this orange box. We'll just see if the setup and the narrative align. I'm not really looking to go long here unless we have some real animation to one side, to the upside. But as long as we're, I wanna still focus on shorts just because I want the narrative to be we're respecting this daily inversion fair value gap. So usually in times like this, when we're kind of waiting to see where price wants to go, I will open up the 1 minute on the opposing. So if I'm on the opposing indices, so if I'm watching NQ, I'll open up ES. If I'm watching ES, I'll open up NQ. Purely, and what I'm looking at here is watching the highs and the lows. So you can see right here, this was the high we made on NQ, coincides with this similar high on ES. Now I'll probably watch the lows. So I'll be watching on NQ. We have a swing low right here. Do we want to go below that? We have a similar swing low on ES. ES and NQ are moving pretty nicely together, so that's good to see. Okay, so it looks like I'm gonna wait. We'll wait until this swing low is closed below before we make any claims. I do like that as we see these down close candles printing, the dollar is also going up. Okay. I'd like it if we had a heavy, strong close. That's awesome. Oh, nope. Okay, that's a good heavy candle. There's another one of the dollar making some higher highs. ES also dropped. Okay, I'll drop that. Getting pretty heavy here. Kind of want to move this. Just wait and see. I would watch this as I like how in the 5 minute we broke this swing low. Okay. Looks like we had just a tap. I like how strong the dollar looks here. Okay. Came up, tapped the bottom of that. That could count as an entry. I'm not going to take it just yet. Trying to be a little more patient with price. Okay, I would enter Let's sell to there. Okay, so we got a pretty large fair value gap right here. You could set the stops above it, just right above there. Now let's see how we behave around this fair value gap. So we're going to call this our silver bullet for this session. See if it wants to act as so. We have a strong moving dollar. We have ES making lower lows. Again, so on NQ, 10 handles, we mark out as our low-hanging fruit objective. Buy back one there. Dollar's looking strong, so still liking the looks of this trade. Okay, so now we got on the 5-minute. We'll see. 5-minute candle might want to just tick up into this 5-minute, because this is now a 5-minute fair value gap. There he goes there. So something we'll watch too is, since we didn't get an immediate drop, I'm going to draw a fib out. And we really want to stay below this consequent encroachment, this 50% line. If we start to spend any more time on the top half of this range, you'd want to see it. The higher you see it go into the opposing end of the fair value gap, the quicker you want to see it kind of pull back and retrace. So I want to see if the candle body, how it respects this consequent encroachment. Got a slight close above it. Now I really want to see it drop. I don't want to see it linger. It looks like we want to linger. Let's have some patience here. So we had a pretty aggressive fall, so it makes sense that we'd pull back and have a swing, form another, like a lower high. So I'd really like it if this turned into a lower high and we got heavier. If this turned into a swing high and then we came up and started coming up above it, I'd probably take one off the table just to mitigate risk. We'd buy back one. Let's see how we treat it though. Again, so if you're just tuning in, where we have a bearish bias because of this daily fair value gap, we're looking for it to be an inversion fair value gap because the daily candle yesterday closed below it. We're trading back up into it, and we're looking for it to act as an inversion. Coming into the PM session, we know we can often look for the lunch highs and lows as liquidity. So we have here the lunchtime high came into 1 o'clock, trading above it, taking it out. We had this aggressive drop down, taking out these swing lows. At the same time that happened, we had a rising dollar. So we classified this SIBI as our silver bullet. We entered at the bottom. It also coincided with a 5-minute SIBI, so I wasn't too surprised when I saw this 5-minute candle print and come into it. I really like how on the 5-minute, this 5-minute body shows no willingness to close in this silver bullet. We measured out the quarters of this fair value gap on the 1 minute. We had a candle close just a few ticks above the consequent encroachment, 50%, but it was 1, 2, and then you can see them start to trail off. Getting a little bit of lag on my mouse. Okay, so it's looking pretty good for us right now. I think this low-hanging fruit is looking likely. Oh, look at that. See? Went right to the tick. And the funny thing is, whenever you're trying to get profits, it'll go right to the line and it won't ding you. But like if you were trying to do an entry, that would get you in, which is kind of the inverse of sometimes what you would want. Cool. So we got our first low-hanging fruit objective. I am going to move my stop back to the consequent encroachment here. Part of me wants to move it to break even just because the last 2 days, not yesterday, but the day before, I was a little too eager with my stop, and it was a good entry and I was on sides and I just didn't have the right stop placement. I ended up getting bumped out, which was a little frustrating. So I don't want to be too eager with my trailing my stop. Also because I think we have some room to get heavy here. So as you can see right here, we're going to target the lunch lows. But what I like to do is I like to map out the swing lows in between that, just for, you can always see it kind of stalls there. So it came down, bumped it. So we're taking liquidity. You know what? I will, what do we got? 16 ticks, $80. No, I'll leave it there. So I'll be looking for that low to be taken. That would have been a good partial. But I'm more interested in these lower lows. So since we already, I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that gray because we already took it. Because I only have one other contract left, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and try and see if we can get these lower lows. I'd rather risk it coming up and taking the $80 stop, because we'll still be in profits since we locked in profits early. So we're definitely profitable right now. But I want to see how much juice this thing has. You know, after actually, so another thing too is after taking liquidity, so we took that sell side right there, I will move it to break even. But I'll move it like right below, nothing too crazy. But it is good practice to move your stop after taking liquidity. So we took that sell side, and you know, if the market really wanted to, it justifies it to come back up. I don't think it's going to do that right now, but we do have this fair value gap. I think if the dollar wants to, in the bottom left, you see over here this dollar, if the dollar wants to come up and take this swing high, that could send us lower. Awesome. So this is when trading gets fun, is you took profits and you're trading risk free. Because now it's just, let's see how right we were. Might change this color. Yeah. Okay, so it came up, tapped into that fair value gap. That's permissible. We'll see if it wants to get heavy below that. If we start to close above this fair value gap after taking sell side liquidity over here, then I would kind of expect the stop to probably be hit. But we'll see what we do. As you can see, the stop is right above the high of this candle that makes the fair value gap. As you can see, this candle came up and it went just a tick above the close of this up close candle. So I like that. The dollar is kind of going sideways right now, but since we're still kind of hanging around our low, I like that. Check what ES is doing. I feel like as of lately, ES has been kind of delivering. I feel like the price action hasn't been as clean, but when it does run, it's been delivering just as well as NASDAQ. But since you get more per point, it always squeaks out to a little more profits. Awesome, making a lower low. Okay, so I really want to see it get a little heavier. I think we'll watch the consequent encroachment of these wicks the market will move in any direction. It will move with either up and down for sell side for liquidity purposes or to fill inefficiencies. So if you can see, we're either taking this liquidity to go higher, or we are just kind of bouncing because there's no inefficiency or liquidity below this low until you get to right here, which is the consequent encroachment on the 5-minute wick. But we have sell side down here. Okay, so we're coming up. See how we close on this fair value gap. I want to see us reject it again. I don't want to see us close inside of it. The dollar, as you can see right here, is just kind of going sideways. So I like that. Hopefully what's happening right now is this algorithm's just allowing smart money to get in one more time before sending it lower. Soon, when this when our account gets a little deeper into profit, I will be doing things like taking extra entries. So if we have this sell side liquidity, that could be another entry. I'm gonna be opening this account a little more conservatively. We took 2 losses earlier this week. So definitely just trying to kind of play more conservatively out the gate. But as we start to get a little more, as we run up the profits a little more, and we'll start kind of upticking the leverage. But there's no need to do that at the start. Okay, so we're spending some time in the top portion of this fair value gap. I don't like how much time we're spending in it, really, especially after, like I said, after taking liquidity in this low right here, it does justify us to come back up. That's why we always lock in our 10 handle profits. But we'll see. If we close above this, I will exit the trade. We have the stop there in case it really wants to shoot, but if we were to close above it, I would exit just for a few ticks of profit. Looks like we might not. I really want to see the dollar get a little boost up here. Okay, I like that. We closed below this fair value gap. Dollar's looking like it wants to come up. Come on, dollar. Kind of bouncing off the top of that 4-hour fair value gap. Again, if we get a close above this fair value gap, a candle body close, I will close out the trade if it doesn't hit my stop before doing that. Just because, the bias again was that we were going to use this daily fair value gap as an inversion fair value gap. So really, we could come with that narrative in mind, we could come all the way up and just like close somewhere in here and still have that narrative be true. We took a little scalp today, but the dollar is just breaking up over these highs. What I really want to see it do is get over this high. Just waiting. If we get a close right there, I'm going to close out. Oh, bump me out. Okay, so it still could go lower. Again, this could be just a lower high. Like I wouldn't claim that we're going up until we break this high. Matter of fact, if this candle, I don't know how much time we have, like 20 seconds left on this candle. If this was to shoot down and respect this, fair value gap, that'd be pretty bearish. Okay, we did get a close above it. Again, so we locked in a little bit of profits here today. The hard thing about these larger fair value gaps is if we were really, really bearish, we wouldn't have done this. We wouldn't have closed above this fair value gap. It could still come back into this larger fair value gap. And before like the narrative turns bullish, it could still have a bearish narrative and coming up into here, but it's less likely. And when you have a fair value gap this big, it's hard because that's such a large stop loss to have. Well, it's not such a large, but it's just a larger stop loss to have. So coming off the heels of, I think I took a loss yesterday and I took a loss the day before. So playing a little conservative, just gonna kind of recoup those losses back, just hit some, base hits. And then once we recoup those losses back, that's something where it's like, okay, we'll take on more risk, open the stop up. I am surprised that we closed above this as the dollar closed above these highs. I still think the bears, so the downside, there's still a chance that we come and take out this sell side. But again, like I said, our bias was derived off of using this as an inversion fair value gap. I'll probably update that. So we could still come up and hang around inside this orange area and have our narrative be correct. This was more of like a scalp play. I'd want to see how price acts on this 5-minute wick. Okay, so it came up, tapped that, and got pretty heavy. Wow. Nice. Yeah, so we came back up, tapped that. If we break below this low right here with some force, we're definitely going to go and send it to this lower sell side. It looked like what that was doing is, so when we came down right here aggressively, that made a 1 minute, a 5 minute, and then as we kind of chopped around here, a 15-minute SIBI. So actually what we just did, we did it right here on the 5 minute. We came up, after we made it, we came up, entered that 5 minute fair value gap, came down lower, took that sell side. Staggered up a little bit, and that's when this new 15-minute candle opened, came up. Remember, for a while, it wasn't until right here is when this 15-minute candle opened. We opened, entered in institutional order flow into this 15-minute SIBI, and that's what allowed price to drop. And we have a higher dollar. So that's the context of what price was doing right there. I actually wasn't looking at the 15-minute, so I wasn't thinking that prior, but that's what happened. Price was just waiting for the drop because what it wanted to do is it wanted to hit this discount, this SIBI, before going lower. Got a rising dollar. Let's see if the dollar make it that high. Yeah, so in tandem too. It's everything. It's funny how it all like always works in tandem. So this 1 minute candle was the open of this 15-minute candle. Came up, tapped not only the 1 minute fair value gap, the 5 minute fair value gap, and the 15-minute fair value gap at the same time that the dollar finally poked its head above this more intermediate term long. I mean high, swing high. And it's like all those things in tandem is what allows it to then go and drop right down. You had it drop through. You see this one come up, just come up right to the top of this fair value gap, came back down. It didn't even need to go into this, probably because we had, delivery to the upside through it. We had delivery to the downside through it. Let's watch the dollar a little more. Yeah, so assuming if we are under the assumption that if we are under the assumption that we're going to go target these liquidities, these would be good re-entries. Again, I'm going to hold off on doing extra entries and pyramiding until we can get the account balance up a little higher. So I'm going to wait before we start taking on a little more risk. But yeah, this is some good price action. Let's see what ES ended up doing. ES was pretty similar, but as you can say, I went to NQ because I didn't like how over the lunchtime ES, the opens and closes of the candles were a little disjointed. There was all these volume gaps. You can even see it right here, like volume gap. But it was the same premise. We came down. That's the same volume gap, or SIBI on NQ. The 5 minute and the 15-minute look almost similar. Let's go back to NQ. Okay, NQ. Still going higher on the dollar. Nice. The Dow's also making lower lows. So that is my first trade for the day. Technically, with my rules, we could take 2 more, or we could take 1 more, because we only allow 2 per session. If I was to enter again, it would be if we were to come up here, and I'll put my stop there. But something ICT has also said, so if we are in a sell program and we are making fair value gaps on the way down, this is something he said recently in his most recent live stream. I think it was Tuesday he live streamed NQ. When you start to see fair value gaps get like filled up to at higher, like it goes deeper into fair value gaps, he described it as a quote warning sign for smart money that price is going to reverse. So you can see here we came down, barely went, just a little bit over 50%, came down, came up through this one, tapped that one more time, but then came down. So you have the dollar turning right here. I think it would be a little risky to try and enter now, but we still could. You can see the 15-minute candle though, respecting this down close candle, the body of it. So if price was to go higher, these candle bodies would not want to close below 15,584, which it looks like is what they are doing. Let's look at the higher time frames. It's the 1 hour. Let's go to the 4 hour. No, it's the 4 minute. I want the 4 hour. So the 4 hour, we came and we closed above this green area, which is a 4 hour fair value gap. Let's see visibility. Yeah, so this 4 hour fair value gap, we came up, closed above it, came down, tapped it. That would make, I would be a little hesitant for shorts right there. But again, so it'd be awesome if we close in or below this daily inversion fair value gap, because then tomorrow we have a strong bias for the downside. We have a strong bearish bias. Yeah, so as you can see here, I will show you guys the account just to prove that I haven't reset anything. So this is, what is this? So this was the big loss we had the other day, and then I think this was me closing out a trade when I knew we were off sides. I closed it out on profit. That wasn't really a win, but here's today's trading. We have 9/13/23. As you can see, that was our first and only trade for today. So we have the 10 handles right here, and then we had the pullback after we moved our stops to break even. Got the account sitting at 150, so I got $610 in profit. Hopefully by the end of the week we'll get that over 1K. But this was the start of the account, as you can see down here. All these trades were recorded in the live streams. Here's the history. I don't look at this page too much. So 9/13. Yeah, these, I'll just let you look at all that. Awesome. It's funny, I was so what did we end up getting today actually? How many handles was it? It's just the balance. We entered here. Yeah, so what, 94.50, 84.75. So it was just 0.2 shy. 0.25, 1/4 shy of 10 handles. I forget where I was going with that. But we got our 10. We got our 5 to 10 handles. It's 5 handles on ES, 10 handles on NQ. We got that for the day. I could also see it kind of going sideways for the rest of the day. Could kind of do whatever it wants. Oh, that's where I was going with the 10 handles. Um, I was watching Patrick Weiland, his live stream this morning, because I was like, let me see what other people look like live streaming. And he didn't even like, his window on what he was showing was so cropped. Like, he didn't even show, you couldn't even see like what he was trading. It was just like, let me see if I can like recreate it for you. It was like, looked like, I don't know if that's going on your screen, but it was just so zoomed in on the candles, you didn't even see the time frames or anything. I mean, I guess he's trying to like make it kind of like a signal service or anything, and he puts all the proper disclaimers on, but and then he was just kind of like yelling at he was just getting very excited. I think I'd like to see how he reacts when he takes losing trades, if he shows those. I don't know if he shows those. He kind of seems like somebody who like wouldn't show losing trades. Then you could see him like, I don't want to throw shade, because he's definitely, I think he's probably like one of the big players in the live streaming space. So I was just kind of looking to him for see how the big dogs do it, but it was very interesting to watch, and it just made me realize that I definitely want to deliver my content in a little bit of a different way, a little more transparent, a little more explanation behind what we were doing. Okay, so with the rising dollar, I do see this sell side liquidity that could be happening as the dollar rises. We haven't made a higher high yet, so we got lower high, lower high, lower high. We got this lower low. Seeing, I think another lower low could easily go to this. I usually like my runs to be a little quicker. That's why one of the reasons why I moved my stop so quickly. And because of, we're coming off of 2 days losing in a row. So we'll just take a small win to get your confidence back. I mean, trading's mostly psychological. So making sure that you have that belief in yourself, like all the time, is paramount. And especially, when you're still, like, I'm not going to claim to be a veteran in this game or in this craft. I've been doing this for, I forget if it's 2 or 3 years. It might be 3. I tell myself 2 because it sounds better. But 3 years. But still, when you're like starting off, and 3 years is still young, you have to make sure that it's the psychological battle. You have to make sure that you believe that you can do this. I actually was journaling earlier today when I wasn't trading, because I was doing something earlier this morning that made me miss the beginning of the opening, and I was watching price, and I saw that early morning silver bullet form, and I was like kind of getting some FOMO that I wasn't in it, so I went to journal, because that helps me when I feel FOMO or greed. And I was just kind of journaling about how, like, in trading, taking losses is inevitable. But also winning isn't that hard. So like, I can come out here and like win, but I will also come out here and lose. And it's not the winners that make you, it's the losers that make you. They say like, just make sure you're not somebody who takes losses that break you. And like, I've blown accounts. I think everybody blows accounts, but I think what happens is over time you learn, like, the more accounts you blow, the more like you're like, okay, I have to make sure that these losses don't destroy me, because as long as you can survive the losses and live to trade another day, you will find profitable setups, and you will be able to string together more winners than losses. But the losses will come, and if you let one loss destroy, say, 5 days of winners, then it doesn't matter. You can have 30 consecutive winning days. If it is not unlikely for a person to blow an account in one day. So it's the losing days that really make you. And bouncing back from those losing days. So I had 2 losing days to start off this week, and that's why I went a little conservative. Took the 10 handles early, moved my stop to break even, and we could have easily gotten a little more. I mean, everything in this TA right now is signaling we could still take out this sell side, but I moved my stop up to break even just because it's important to lock in the win today, to get the confidence back. So I'm curious, I do kind of want to just hang out and see if we take this low. I mean, we're making, on the 1 minute, we're making lower lows and lower highs. So it's interesting. I want to see if we do end up making a higher high, I feel like it would kind of go up quickly. And if it didn't, and then it just like came back down to the range, then that's just kind of some nonsense price action that I wouldn't be interested in watching. But I'll watch as long as we're making this, keeping this structure. And the dollar is still rising. I like that. Let's see, ES is still going too. There we go. That would tick you in. It always stops right on the line, and then it gets annoying because like that won't fill you. Ooh, but that would fill you. That would fill you. That'd be awesome. Okay. Next level of sell side is this. Why this? This is the lunch low and the next swing low on the 5 minute. So I will go over what we went into this trading session. So again, I'll start right here. This red line denotes the start of the 2 p.m. silver bullet session. So all we saw was this. And what we were looking at was we were expecting this daily fair value gap. I'll go to the daily and show you. This daily fair value gap to act as an inversion. We wanted it to act as an inversion, not just because ICT said so, but because we closed below it on this day. So we closed below it on this day. So if we were to come up to it, we'd want to see it act as an inversion. So that was our narrative. Going into the 2 p.m. session, we had like a decent generation of liquidity over lunch side, and we know that in the afternoon session, it can use the lunch session liquidity. So we highlighted the highs and the lows of the lunch session. So this is the lunch low. This is the lunch high. You can't see it because that's in the way. This is the low at 12:40. This is the high at 12:55, I guess. Oh no, that's the low. That's the low at 12:15. That's the high at 12:54. So we highlighted those as our liquidity. And then coming into prior to, we saw these candles kind of respecting the inside of this fair value gap. And we poked above it, but then we came back in and we traced. And we retraced. And then starting right at 2, you saw us get aggressively break below all these lows. So we came up above the buy side, broke aggressively below her. We're expecting this to act as a inversion fair value gap. We came back up. So we're looking for a SIBI to sell short into, selling short, expecting these lunch lows to be ran after the buy side was ran. So we came up, had this large down close candle, came up to just shy of 50% consequent encroachment of this fair value gap. Then we dropped low again. That's where we got our 10 handles. We came back up. We ended up moving our stops to break even. I just talked about that. I'm trying to be more conservative, coming off of 2 losing days. But then we had a lower low, came up, not making any higher highs, broke down. And as you can see, now we came down and took that lunch low all of that was happening while the dollar was going up. So that's always key, and that's what gives me a lot of confidence to enter trades. Is we entered on this candle right here, and you can see this yellow line is the dollar. The dollar was going up, so we want to see the dollar be the inverse of the indices. Dollar was going up, we entered low. Another key thing was this SIBI. When this candle formed, it also formed a SIBI on the 5 minute. Now that 5 minute SIBI didn't form technically until the next 5 minute candle, but it was by the time the next 5 minute candle formed, it was there. And you can see on the 5 minute in this bottom left, on this 5 minute candle, we came back into it and entered that fair value gap. That 5 minute candle is this large run back up into it, and we saw it reject it. That's great to see. And at the same time, this 5 minute candle and this 1 minute candle was this 15 minute candle that also created a 15 minute SIBI or fair value gap. And then you can see we kind of hung around. So we took that first sell side noted right here. Our 10 handles was right above it, so we always go for the 10 handles first, and then we took the sell side, and then we kind of hung around before taking this next one, and it looked like it wanted to wait, because as you can see right here, when we returned back into this 1 minute fair value gap, which is also this 5 minute fair value gap, which is also this 15 minute fair value gap, but it needed to wait, I guess, 30 minutes for this candle to start, because right when this 15 minute candle started is right when we had the tick into the 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute SIBI, and that's when it dropped heavy. So it just wanted that 15 minute discount before dropping. Dropped again. We had this retracement back up. The whole time the dollar was still going up, never made a higher high. Drop. Now it got real heavy. Wow. Oh gosh. Let's see how low. Yeah, all the way down to this hourly fair value gap. So let's look at this price action on the higher time frame. Holy moly. Yep, this hourly right here. Makes sense. Dollar rocketing. This is the dollar on the 5 minute. Yeah, dollar just took off, which allowed the indices to drop. I would not be interested in taking another trade today, just because we kind of did it. We kind of covered our narrative. Yeah, so like I said, we were playing it a little conservatively today, just coming off the back of 2 losses. But the real exciting thing, and kind of going back to my little soapbox monologue about making sure your losses don't do you in, because you will, just making sure you live to trade another day is important, because so what will happen is once I recover from those 2 losses and we get the account balance back up, I mean, we're still positive. Account balance is still up, but once we get the account, we recover from those 2 losses and we start playing a little more aggressively, this drop, we will be catching these drops. So what I did was I had my stop right at the bottom of this fair value gap. It was break even. I was just playing conservative to lock in a win for today, coming off the back of 2 losses. But if we're on a nice winning streak, that stop would have stayed at the top of this candle. And when you leave the stop at the top of this candle or the swing high, that's when you catch things like this. We don't aim for this. We always aim for the base hits. And what I've found my success in is you always aim for the base hit. And if you learn like proper trade management, you'll get these every now and then. You'll get these more often than you think. And there you go. That's how you become a great trader. So looks like we only have 2 minutes left in this PM session silver bullet window. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully going into the end of this week, after we recover from these 2 down days, we'll start playing a little more aggressively, and we will start catching things like this.